All know the old saying, they don't make them like this anymore. That's what they meant when they made Shaft. 1971, directed by Gordon Parks and starring the legendary Richard Roundtree. I have been meaning to talk about this movie for a really, really long time. I became aware of this movie really kind of by accident as a kid, listening to V103, 102.7 FM in Chicago, which is our Hits and Dusty station in Big Shoulders. And I heard the song, which blew me away, just hit me right in the chest. Would learn that that is the theme song to Shaft, which those of you that know it, it is an unmistakable theme by the great Isaac Hayes, who did the entire score of the film and was just an incredible legend in his own right. I have all of that guy's albums, from Black Moses to all his scores from various films, Truck Turner, Shaft, and really the score of Shaft is as legendary as the film itself. But let's get on to the film. Shaft is one of those watershed moments in film where once it dropped, it changed everything. It really gave us an incredible force of the man of John Shaft, based on the same character from a series of novels. That's where the character comes from. And this would be his first outing in 71. This movie and its subsequent two sequels would save MGM Studios. Metro Goldwyn Mayer, the studio that had at the time, I guess it still does, James Bond franchise, was going under. They were about to go bankrupt. And it was John Shaft and this film that saved it. This movie, like I said, was a watershed moment. It was like a bomb dropped. And that was it. MGM was back, and Richard Roundtree was a star, and Shaft, his name, his look, his sound was burned, etched into all of our minds. Basically, throughout this film, you see, I don't know, Shaft, and as Richard Roundtree plays him, he's playing a guy who is absolute effortless cool, tough, he's strong, but he respects people around him. Everyone loves him. Everyone in his community knows who he is and loves him, respects him. Women want to be with him. Men want to be him. That's where those lines came from. Women, want to be with him and want to be him. That started with Shaft. And this movie's so beautiful. It's a time capsule of a New York that doesn't really exist anymore. Obviously, early 70s New York. The grit and the texture and the color. Man, this movie is a masterpiece. It really is. It's often looked at as being blaxploitation. It is not. One of the requirements for a blaxploitation film is to be an independent film that had an independent release. Shaft, jam release, is a studio film, and man, it's I wish I had so much to say about this movie, and I'm getting tongue tied. I think really works for this film is everyone who was a part of it was happy to be there. I don't think that Gordon Parks, the director, was super accomplished at the time. Richard Roundtree, who again is our lead, Shaft, was only 28 years old at the time, which is crazy because while the guy does not look old, he doesn't look 28. There's so much talk going on about why people in previous eras, in older films, just in life, looked so much older than their age. You watch Shaft, and if you didn't know Richard Roundtree was 28, you'd be like, it's like a self-possessed 40-year-old man, a detective. No, 28. The mustache and the sideburns, I think, help, which, again, quintessential style in this movie. So much of my own personal style I have really taken from this era of film. Shaft films, a lot of blaxploitation film, just, black action, overall sort of gritty action from the 70s, as you can tell, really has affected my personal style, my personal, how I carry myself. So much of what I learned about grounded masculinity I get from these films. From Dirty Harry, from John Shaft, from Black Gun, Black Caesar. These films really affected an entire generation of men Again, I certainly didn't grow up in the 70s, but because I was acculturated as a young man with black culture, black film, black music, black aesthetics, I was just drawn to it. It's one of those things where how you grow up and who you grow up with, the people you run with, those things sort of affect you, and you absorb them. You don't realize you're absorbing them. And so much of media and the film and the music that I loved as a kid came from my friends and families. I had a lot of black friends. I had a lot of Laotian refugee friends growing up, and so you run with and you absorb the people who are your friends, and really was a great education. Particularly, what really hits me about this film, and again, rewatched it before started recording here, is every time I watch it, I see something else. Or signs on the restaurants and the bars, how restaurants were decorated, how the women dressed and held themselves. Granted, I know it's a movie. Even just the extras, what you see in terms of people walking down the streets of downtown Manhattan, the people you see up in Harlem, just it doesn't exist anymore, and it's a shame because it's so beautiful. Back to the Shaft and thrust, the plot of it. Essentially, this film is Shaft basically investigating a single case. There is a crime boss out of Harlem named Bumpy Jonas, played by the amazing Moses Gunn. And let's just talk about that name for a minute. Moses Gunn. The actor names in these films of this era were really just titanic. No one names their sons Moses anymore. You've got guys in these films named Moses and Malik, just really sort of powerful names. It makes me want to name my son Moses Gunn Singh. These guys were amazing. Anyway, Bumpy Jonas, played by the great Moses Gunn, he is feeling pressure from the Italian mob, and the Italian mob has made a move on him to try to take over Harlem, and to do it, they have effectively kidnapped his daughter. Before we get this reveal, we have sort of thug-looking guys at work for Bumpy Jonas, sniffing around looking for Shaft. Shaft's not sure why, what's going on. Thinks, somebody's after him. Well, after he throws one of Bumpy's guys out a window, the other guy confesses, "Dude, we just wanted to talk with you. We just wanted a meeting." So Shaft takes the meeting and finds out this big old crime boss up in Harlem. The Italians got him by the short hairs. They've got his daughter. So he negotiates quite a big salary to figure out where she's at, try to get her back. And it's basically a race to find this young lady for the rest of the film. And all the while, John Shaft is busting heads and, following leads and getting beautiful women the entire way through. And it's just an effortless watch. This movie, while it is heavy in a way, it's just fun. Again, it's one of those films that you watch it, oh, this is why Tarantino films are so fun. From the composition and the color and the dialogue, the bigger than life characters, the seriousness with which it takes itself, which again kind of separates it from a lot of blaxploitation. I find a lot of even my favorite blaxploitation films oftentimes tonally be very uneven. Not that I care; they're fun. Coffee can be very uneven, even though it's an absolute masterpiece. It's a badass film. Pam Grier is amazing. Shaft, there's a weight to every scene. And while you'll have scenes where John Shaft is, he's talking to the local guy at the newsstand. He's joking around with, folks in the neighborhood. He's helping somebody out. There's a humanity to the legend of Shaft. I think people who haven't seen the film, and certainly before I saw the film as a teenager, had this idea of sort of like Black Superman. So much of Black Dynamite, the parody film with Michael Jai White, which also you should see, is very much this guy's almost invulnerable, impervious, um, effortlessly cool. Actual film of Shaft, while he is effortlessly cool, he's not invulnerable. He takes some hits. That makes it that much better because then you want him to dust himself off, get up, and lay into these guys, which of course he does. And again, there's so much of this film. I can watch it and I'm just completely zoned in on Shaft, on his character, watching him think, watching him work leads, watching him work women, watching him work the NYPD that's always breathing down his neck because they know he's one of the only dudes who actually check this case. They can't do it. They can't go into these places. They can't go into Harlem. Only Shaft can. And it's fun to watch that characters interacting, the character development. But I can also sit back and watch this film and just completely get absorbed by the aesthetics of it. Like I said, the wardrobe, hairstyles, look of the streets, signs. You'll see everything from like the Shabazz Bakery, which was one of the businesses of the Nation of Islam. I'm almost certain, which sort of goes out of that. So much of these types of films are about Black empowerment, which came out of the Black nationalist movement. So you see these little bits of history in the background of this movie. And this was in the day where they didn't block things out. You can see on the marquee of various cinemas in Manhattan, you see what was playing in the early 70s. You see ads for products that still exist, certain cigarette brands or liquor brands or ones that don't exist anymore. And it's that level of authenticity, that old New York, and this absolute badass, self-possessed, powerful character of John Shaft, sort of walking through it and just being in his element. I don't know if I'm coming off coherent here because I love this film so much. It's one of those movies that it's a pleasure watch. It's anytime it's on, or I need to find my own strength, or I need to sort of check out from a crazy world, or I just want to study a great execution of character building, character development, incredible composition, really using a setting, using a city to reflect mood, to reflect a character. This movie is just it's pregnant with so much, and I don't know that we see as much of that today. There's a lot of minimalism I feel that goes on in a lot of contemporary cinema. Part of that probably has to do with I watch a lot of lower budget stuff. Even the bigger budget stuff, this is way too loud. It's all computer, all CGI. No, there's no CGI in Shaft. There's no CGI in any of those films of the time. They had to really know how to light a scene. Really had to know which take, really throw in on what Roundtree was giving him, making sure that it's perfect. And this film is so perfect. There's nothing unbelievable. Maybe a couple punches, but it's all right. John John is somebody that I would want to be. When I grow up, I want to be John Shaft. That's how much I love this character. I think if you're like me and you're tired of, we're living through maybe one of the worst times in cinema ever. I agree with Tarantino on that one. They're just, no one's taking risks. No one wants to do anything original. Everyone's being super protective. Everybody's being super safe. And as a result, cinema is really boring. And the beauty of Shaft 1971 is the polar opposite of that. We love 70s cinema, this channel, and love risks, the boldness that was being taken by Black filmmakers in the 70s, and filmmakers just in general in the 70s. It's really a special time. It was a huge reaction against the 1950s conservatism in cinema, and then much of the 60s was kind of just the 50s part two, until maybe the late 60s where New Hollywood would crop up, and boom, 1971, and Shaft. This movie really it pulls the needle off the record of the boring, safe, pedestrian stuff. Not to say that all of it was. I like a lot of the Hitchcock stuff that was going on in that time. Our other classics there, Dollars trilogy, of course. Uh, Watch all of those things through the 50s and the early 60s, and then boom, you pop on Shaft, and it's oh, okay. The tectonic plates of cinema have shifted, and man, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Um, the sequels I think are fun. I don't know that it captures as much of what makes this first movie great. Anytime I get to see Richard Roundtree playing Shaft, I'm gonna watch it. You know, Shaft's Big Score, which was the sequel to Shaft, and then Shaft in Africa, which was the third and final film before they went on to make, I think, 8 episodes of Shaft TV series with Richard Roundtree, which 8 episodes and it got canceled. But my recommendation would be absolutely watch Shaft in 1971 and watch the other films too, because it's just Richard Roundtree. The sequels have different flavors. One thing about Shaft's Big Score, the sequel, it really has an even more sort of cleaned up lens. There's still all the grit and all the funk and texture that I love 1971's Shaft, uh, but it has almost like a Bond style theme. It's O.C. Smith, the score for Shaft's Big Score. It feels very Bondish. So many of these guys, whether it was Richard Roundtree or Fred Williamson, really were going for that Black Bond kind of feel in a lot of their work. And I think in many ways they kind of out Bonded Bond. That stuff is more fun to watch. But now we're the recipients of all of these efforts of these guys. But for sure, if you call yourself a cinephile, if you are tired of old stuff, watch Shaft, then watch the sequels. Listen to all of the scores, all of the soundtracks. They are uneffing believable. Obviously, the first one, Isaac Hayes, I live and die by this guy. Most of my gym mixes are his scores from Tough Guys, Truck Turner, Shaft, his self-titled album Black Moses, Hot Buttered Soul. They don't make guys like that anymore. They don't make movies like Shaft, they don't make actors like Richard Roundtree, and they sure as hell don't make artists like Isaac Hayes anymore. And I keep going back to it. But yeah, check it out. You'll understand what I mean. If you have a shred of soul, a shred of taste in you, watching these completely analog films, written, directed, acted, and scored by people with actual souls, you'll wonder what all this fuss is. Anybody would ever watch AI. So yeah, guys, Shaft 1971. Get on it. Fuck what you heard. Listen to me. Watch these films and watch them again and and let me know. Am I wrong? Am I right? Let me know in the comments below. I'll see yous in the next one.